I know how to paint Kharn The Betrayer. Right this way. Hey, welcome in. I'm going to be using my Harder & Steinbeck Infinity Gyrodez edition, and this has got the smallest needle. I believe it's 0.012. The first colour I'm going to be putting in it is Rhinox Hide. Okay, I'm going to be base coating the model in the Rhinox Hide. I'd usually do this as nadir, so just the shadows and from the bottom, but as I'm going to be painting red over most of the model, brown's actually a nice base colour for red to sit on top of. So I'm just going to be putting corn red over the model. I'll be putting this over the flesh bits as well, so just as one arm holding the axe, just because it's also a nice colour for the flesh tones to go on top of. So yeah, I'm mainly spraying this from above and leaving the brown in the shadows. So I'm using this as like a fast zenithal coat. So I'm going to be using Mephiston Red, and this is going to be his mid-tone, the main colour of the figure. Again, I'll be spraying mostly from above, trying to leave some of the previous red in and also not touch the shadows. Working on one area of the model and then moving to another area whilst the first layer dries, and then moving back around. And also just moving the model around, using the 3D aspect of it, and just trying to find the best places to aim. This model does have a lot of creases and bends, so you do have to be quite precise. Just taking a moment to look at the model and check it, make sure I'm happy with the colours, where the shadows are, I've left enough in, and yeah, just if I need to add an extra layer of Mephiston Red or do anything else to it. Now I'm happy with that, I'm going to move up to my final highlight colour, Wild Rider Red. Again, I'm going to be very specific about where this goes and try and precisely spray it just onto certain areas. And also I'm going to be using a lot less of this colour because I don't want the model to look orange. The main colour of this figure should definitely be red. And yeah, I don't want to spoil the nice reds that I've done already by overspraying too much of this orange highlight over everything. But yeah, just taking my time, looking for where I want it to go, being precise, moving the model to how I need it to be to access the areas I want to paint. Again, he can be quite a tricky one to paint, just again the creases and the bends in the model. But yeah, it's coming along nicely. It's always good to remember that even though when the colours first come out they look quite saturated, but once they dry a bit they do dull down, so always try and make sure your layers are dry before adding extra ones on top. Again, just checking around to make sure I'm happy. Okay, I'm going to put a filter over the whole thing now using this Bal Red. It's a very nice red contrast, and yeah, it should bring all the colours, the shadows and the highlights together nicely. Definitely it was looking a bit orange, or you're worried about it looking a bit orange at this point, this is definitely going to get rid of that and yeah, bring everything back to a nice deep red. I think this is a very nice red for Berserkers, and yeah, it will suit Kharn the Betrayer nicely. Giving it just an extra look around to make sure I'm happy. Checking his shadows, seeing if I need to add any back in. But yeah, I'm pretty happy, he's looking pretty cool. Okay, so I just detached him from his base. I usually do the base last, but in this case where I wanted all the skulls on it, I needed to remove them from it to decorate him. Also, it'd just be easier to get to some of the underparts of Kharn. Okay, just getting ready to do all of his gold brass trim now. I was actually really impressed with this metallic paint. The coverage was really good. And yeah, just really impressed with the colour of it. I chose it because it looked like a more of a orangey red gold, and I thought that would suit his armour very nicely. And yeah, I just can't believe how well it painted and how nice it looks against the armour. But yeah, there's plenty of trim to do, so just take your time and enjoy the process. But yeah, very nice metallic paint to use. Probably the best one I've used in the Citadel range, to be fair. Working my way up the model. I usually try and start on the legs or somewhere a bit less important, just to get all the paint worked out. Make sure it's behaving how you expect it to. Going over all of the silver bits, mostly just as chains, and it will be his plasma pistol. I noticed on his plasma pistol that I forgot to drill the barrel, so I'm just going to show you how I did that. Just changing the blade over so I've got a nice sharp point, and that should make making the pilot hole a lot easier. So yeah, just lining it up in the middle, try and find a way to get a good grip on it. And yeah, applying enough pressure to make an indentation, but not so much pressure that you're out of control and risk hurting yourself. See, I've got a nice pilot hole there. And I'm just going to get my little mini Citadel hand drill. Just lining it up with the pilot hole. And then yeah, once you feel it snug and secure, you begin drilling the hole. Just using some Black Legion contrast just to fill in the freshly drilled hole, give it a bit more definition. And these will be my skin tones. And the only part of him that's exposed is his arm holding the axe, so not much skin to paint. But yeah, just starting from the Bugman's Glow, going through to the Cadian flesh tone, and then up to the Kislev flesh for the top highlight. And I'll just be using the Kharn Crimson just to add a bit more of a weathered effect to him. And his skin's looking a bit, I don't know, too smooth. So just try and make him look a bit more raw and like he's being outside. And yeah, I mean, it's Kharn The Betrayer, he's got to look a bit rugged. I'm just using the Agrax Earth Shade on him now, just over the gold trim. Just adding some depth and shadow back into it. I find using metallic sometimes makes the surface look a bit flat and uninteresting, but yeah, his shades and contrast are a good way to add depth back into them. Working my way around the model, taking my time and enjoying it. But yeah, it's a nice way to paint, especially with metallics. And just put the metallics on, add some contrast and shade, bring the depth back into it. It's moving on to all the bone parts now, so he's got quite a few skulls on him. I was going to leave his helmet like the box art, but I decided I think it would be cooler to have the skulls that's on his helmet the same colour as actual skulls, as opposed to the faded red. I just felt like it gave it a bit more definition, and yeah, just for me I thought it looked cooler. And yeah, just going around all the skulls on his base. Trying to mostly catch all the raised areas and leave all the shadows. And yeah, just going around a few more times just to make sure I've got the opacity I'd like on the bone colour. Just going to be going around all the silver bits, so mostly just his chain and his gun. With the Nuln Oil. Again, like I said, with the metallic, sometimes they can look a bit flat and uninteresting, but using a shade or a contrast paint to go over them to add the depth and shadows back in, just definitely makes it look a lot more interesting and nice on the eye. And yeah, the same thing, just going over the skulls with the contrast. Good way to bring the highlights and texture together. And also I quite like the effect on this paint over the bone colour. Just looks a bit more realistic to me. And yeah, putting quite a bit on the skulls on the base. And again, just adding some depth and drama back into it. And yeah, makes them look a lot more realistic, which is a style that I like. And I'll be going over all the raised detail, just picking out the details, making them pop and adding little bits of texture back in. Again, just an extra dimension of interest. It is a nice way to paint. Base coat it, add a contrast or shade over the top to get your shadows and depth back, and then yeah, just making all the details pop by going back over the original colour again. It is a bit of a back and forth technique, but I always think it's worth it, and yeah, the results are always good in the end, so it's always worth doing. It's nice as well because if you do too much of one, like add too much shade and dull everything too much, you can go back over and bring everything back out again. But yeah, just adding some pop and texture back in. Just take your time and enjoy the process. And the same thing with all goldy brass trim. Just adding this to the edges and the most raised parts. Again, just making this trim pop and giving it an extra dimension of detail. But yeah, Chaos models do have a lot of trim, so just take your time and enjoy it. I'm just going to be base coating his tassels. Just doing the darkest blue. Moving up to the next blue, just be mainly trying to catch the edges, leave the darker blue in the shadows. Trying to follow the lines of the mould so it makes sense. And this is going to be the final highlight for his tassels. Again, try not to cover up the other layers that I've put on there, but just adding some extra detail will help it pop. Okay, just adding the extra highlights to the silver bits. So yeah, just make them pop and look more three-dimensional, more for your eye to catch. Yeah, yeah, add some nice scratches and texture to it. I'm going to be doing the plasma effect on his pistol now. Putting the darkest blue on first. It's okay to go slightly outside where the coils are, just because that'll give more of the illusion of glow. Using the middle colour now, just to try and get the edges of the lower parts of the coils, and adding some white to it. And yeah, mostly using the white just to edge highlight the very inner parts of the coils. And yeah, it just helps to sell the illusion that they're glowing. Just giving it a check, make sure I'm happy. I'm going to be moving on to his eyes now. And using my 00 Winsor Newton brush. I'm just putting the darkest green in first. Then add in the next lightest green, not covering up all of the darkest green. And then the final highlight. Again, not covering up the previous layers, just a small dot, just to help it pop. Time to glue him back to his base now. Okay, and just adding some extra texture to the base. It just helps bring the model together and help set the scene. Loads of crushed skulls into the mud, adding more drama to it. Yeah, take your time doing the base. It's worth adding all the extra details into it. It's usually something you can see from the gaming table, and if the base looks cool from that distance, then yeah, it always looks cool when you actually get up close to the model.
Like, comment, subscribe.